Lisa made a batch of plant. Oh, hello. Thank you for joining me for Veg with Lisa live. I'm Lisa. This is definitely live, and so I know that you can see me and hear me. Please say hi. Type a message to me in the comments that I may or may not read on the air. I wrote a special tongue twister just for this episode. Here it goes. Veg with Lisa made a batch of plant-based pesto. A batch of plant-based pesto Veg with Lisa made. If indeed Veg with Lisa made a batch of plant-made pesto, where is the batch of plant-based pesto Veg with Lisa made? Oh my gosh, I got through it. Mildred, hi cousin Mildred, all the way from Wales. Hi Rob. Cousin Mildred, did you grow basil in your garden this summer? It's probably too chilly for basil in Wales already. Okay, so to answer your question, hi Lori, where is this batch of plant-based pesto that was easy for me to say? Well, we're going to make it together because it here in Kansas City, yes, it's a tongue twister indeed, Rob. Mildred grew basil in Wales. Mildred, I wonder if you make pesto, and I wonder if not, what do you do with your basil? So here in Kansas City, where I am this week, it is time, if you haven't already, to harvest your basil. So what happens is the basil grows really big and bushy, and I often wait until it's too late, and it doesn't like the cooler weather, and it doesn't like the shorter days. So if you still have basil on your plants, that's a tongue twister right there, you want to harvest it. And if you don't have your own basil, but you want to make a batch of plant-based pesto, you can buy it at the farmer's market or at the grocery store, but you need quite a bit. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to make some plant-based pesto. Why? Well, first of all, because it's absolutely delicious and it's super flexible. What's the word I want? Really, really handy. Pesto is super, versatile. That's the word I was looking for. It's a great little condiment you can have in your kitchen, in the freezer, and I'll show you how to do that too, to add lots of flavor. Cousin Mildred says loads of tomatoes and basil. Yes. And by the way, thank you, Cousin Mildred. Basil goes fantastic with tomatoes. Yeah. All right. So shall we dig in and get, but what about the plant-based part? Why do I want to make plant-based pesto instead of the regular old pesto that's loaded with Parmesan cheese? Well, that's a complicated issue. A lot of you I know are wanting to cut back on your dairy, and you're wanting to cut back on your saturated fat. Cheese is really high in both. Regular cheese is made from dairy, which is high in saturated fat. So we can have a chat about that offline if you're interested. However, if you love cheese, but you know you want to eat less, actually cheese can be very addictive. Can anybody relate to that? I hear a lot of you tell me that when you're trying to eat healthier, lower fat, less saturated fat, less dairy, that cheese is one of the hardest things to give up because it is known to be, in certain circles, addictive. The plant-based protein, the milk, the dairy protein casein that's in the cheese is also suspected of causing or contributing to certain types of cancers, particularly breast cancer and prostate cancer. So anyway, a lot of reasons why we might want to cut back on our dairy. If that's you, but you're not ready to give it up, how about making a plant-based pesto where you won't miss the cheese and then save your cheese consumption for a really nice piece with some crackers and a glass of wine? Okay, let's get to cooking, shall we? I'm going to turn you down here where you can see what I am doing. So what you will need special for this plant-based pesto is a food processor. And I'll tell you what, don't worry if you don't have one. They are expensive, but you don't have to go out and buy like a $200 food processor. I'll give you a little hint. People buy these and then never use them. And so you can find used, practically new food processors at a garage sale. That's where this one came from. A friend of mine picked this one up for me. Because the one that I got for my now defunct wedding is long gone because I use it so much. Okay, anyway, so fresh basil, right? This is super fragrant and what we're gonna use. I'm gonna show you all these things at once because when I put it in, it's gonna be loud. Pine nuts is traditional in pesto. I'm gonna use pine nuts. You could also use walnuts. They make a really, really tasty pesto. We got some fresh lemon to squeeze some fresh lemon juice, and I'm gonna show you a trick for that, and fresh garlic, which I'm gonna show you a trick for that. And then you might be wondering, okay, what are we gonna do about the Parmesan cheese situation if we're not gonna use dairy? This, my friends, is a really cool little product called nutritional yeast, sometimes known as Nooch for short. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go. But let us get started. So first, I think I'm gonna put my garlic in first because, oh, and then also extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of salt. I'm gonna put my garlic in first because I want it to get good and processed. So let me show you my little trick for the garlic. I'm gonna use a goodly amount of garlic in this. I've already got that one ready to go. And then if you can see me down here, this is super cool. So in case you don't, all probably know this, but in case you don't, you've got the garlic. It comes in the little skin. You can take your knife and just give it a smash, and then it's super easy to peel the garlic paper off. Yeah, I mean, you'll want to wash your fingers after this because they'll be stinky. But all right, so garlic is going into the pot. And then let's just give this, we're gonna make some noise in the kitchen today, which is so fun. Give it a little whir. All right, pine nuts, could be walnuts. There we go, sounded good. Yes, let's go ahead and do our fresh, fragrant basil that you may have picked from your garden or you may have bought at the store. Let's give this a yeah. So what about basil? It's green. Is it healthy? Are fresh herbs especially good for us? Well, the answer is yes and maybe. One reason I love to advise people to use herbs and spices when they're cooking or in their food is because it enhances the flavor. It makes our food taste better. And if our food tastes better, we're less likely to need to add salt and fat to make the food taste good. So you can get these fresh, beautiful tastes from spices and herbs like this fresh basil. There are also a lot of preliminary studies that say that basil can be really good for a lot of issues. As you might suspect, there's not a ton of science or data on this because the big pharma companies aren't going to get rich telling us to plant basil plants, are they? Some of the things that are possibly associated with basil, fresh basil consumption, are reduced depression due to chronic stress, reduce stroke damage, relaxes our blood vessels. There's vitamin K in it, so it might make our blood pressure better, reduce high blood pressure, help our blood clotting, and like anything green, prevent certain types of cancer. So there's no downside as far as I know to eating a lot of fresh herbs. Okay, what is next? Lemon juice. So this is turning into my favorite kitchen gadget show. This is another one of my favorite kitchen gadgets. It's a little clapper for squeezing lemons and limes without getting the seed involved. So you just pop it in there, you give it a squeeze, oh yes, and that's that. Looks like I'm gonna need a little more, and then I'm gonna show you this other little kitchen gadget that I'm using here, which is super handy. Okay, that's all I need for this, I think. Look at this. This is a really cool little measuring cup with tablespoons and ounces on there. I just love it. So I'm gonna open the lid of my food processor. I'm gonna toss that in. Surely you have some fresh lemon around from your morning lemon water practice, right? Okay, so we got lemon, we've got fresh basil, we've got garlic, we've got pine nuts, we've got lemon juice. Now let's get on to our nooch. So what about this nutritional yeast? Well, this is a yeast that's grown specifically to be used as a food product. The yeast is not alive, so if you're worried about that, it's not. It's used in cooking, it's used in flavoring, it's great on popcorn. It has a cheesy, nutty flavoring. It's often fortified so that it's a fantastic source of the B vitamins, particularly B6 and B12, which if you eat a mostly plant-based diet, you might be lacking in. So I love this. It's really high in protein. It's really high in fiber. It's just a fantastic cheese substitute if you're wanting to reduce your dairy or flavor your food with something really interesting. Okay, so let's toss it in. Oh, Oh, it smells amazing. Actually, while I've got that open, I'm just going to put a pinch of sea salt. Heather, Fairy, it's great to see you. Are you tuning in from the cemetery? Okay. Here we go. Fresh basil, pine nuts, garlic, lemon juice, nutritional yeast, a little pinch of sea salt. Okay, now here comes the other very, very classic ingredient in basil, and it's extra virgin olive oil. So I'm going to use, I'm using this really cool little thing to tell me when I've got just the right amount. I'm going to open the lid, and I'm going to let this rip. Yeah. Cool. Okay, now I might want a little bit. Let's check this out first. Oh, forgot something. Oh, yeah. So one little trick that you can do if you're going to serve your pesto with pasta, which is one of the, oh, cool. Heather's turning in from Union Cemetery, one of my favorite places in Kansas City. She's a volunteer there, and she is amazing. What would we do without you, Heather? If you're going to serve this with pasta, which is one of the common ways to serve pesto, you can cook the pasta at the same time, which I intended to do, but I just plain didn't have time this morning. And you can save a little bit of the pasta cooking water to add to the pesto. That's a fantastic thing to do. Since I don't have any pasta cooking, I'm just going to get a little water. Hang on. Another thing I love about pesto is it's a really strong flavor because of all the basil concentrated and the nutritional yeast. So you don't need a lot. You get a big bang for your buck. Okay, let's see what we've got going on here now. Let me make sure I got everything. Fresh basil, pine nuts, you could use walnuts, fresh garlic, nutritional yeast, sea salt, extra virgin olive oil, and maybe a little bit of pasta cooking water or regular water. You could also use aquafaba if you had it. Okay, oh my gosh, I so wish you could smell this. I know you can see it though. Yeah. So what in the world are we, oh, look at this. This is so beautiful. Let me pop it into this clear bowl here so that you can really see it, get all my little gadgets out of the way. Oh, look at that beautiful fresh green color. Yep. Oh, that's so gorgeous. Okay, I'll do the rest of that later. But let me show you this. Look at this. So what are you going to do with it? Well, here are some of my favorite ideas. You're going to cook some pasta, and then you're going to toss the pesto on the pasta. You're going to cook a spaghetti squash, and you're going to toss the pesto with the spaghetti squash. One more great idea. Hold on. You're going to steam a cauliflower, mash a cauliflower, and stir a little bit of pesto into your mashed cauliflower, or you could do the same thing with mashed potatoes. This is how versatile this is. You're going to spread it on some crackers. You're going to spread it on some bread. Veg with Lisa made a batch of plant-based pesto. A batch of plant-based pesto, Veg with Lisa made. If indeed Veg with Lisa made a batch of plant-based pesto, where's the batch of plant-based pesto Veg with Lisa made? It's right here, and it's going to go into my belly for lunch, and I'm going to call Robbie to help me eat some of this plant-based pesto. Thank you for tuning in live. If you want to talk about why maybe reducing your dairy, maybe reducing your saturated fat. Oh, pizza. Yes, thank you, Rob. You can put this on some pizza, some pesto pizza. I know Maeve loves that. Is Maeve watching today? If you have questions about any of these things, reach out, shoot me a message, and we'll schedule a quick chat. All right, thank you for tuning in for Veg with Lisa Tongue Twister Plant-Based Pesto live, and see you next week.